is Rebecca Schissel Marshall with Whole Body Upgrade, a podcast to help you get unstuck, feel better, and have more energy. Let's get started.
Welcome back to Whole Body Upgrade. I'd like to start by welcoming in the directions. I welcome in the great direction of the east, the direction of the south, in the west, and the north. I welcome in all the loving and compassionate spirit guides and the ancestors who have lived well and died well, and ask that all the things that need to be said, and those things that need to be heard are heard. And I welcome in the elements of earth and air and fire and water. And I acknowledge that I'm on the land of the Creek and the Cherokee in what is now known as Athens, Georgia. Hello. Welcome to episode 80 of Whole Body Upgrade. I am actually a little bit shocked that we're at episode 80. It's super fun to be here and amazing. So how are you? How is everybody? I am, it's really interesting. I'm in a very interesting period of my life where things are really great and things are really interesting. And that's a little bit what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about resistance. I want to talk about what you may see when you are feeling resistance. This is from my own experience and from working with clients. And if you aren't sure, what do I mean by resistance? And some people may not even know how that feels. They may not even know that they are in resistance. My experience is, that feeling you have when you just can't do something or you don't want to. Like, you're just like, oh, I don't want to. Like, I've seen this. My son recently broke his ankle. And, we were talking about doing homework and he's like, I just don't want to, right? So there was a lot of resistance there. And as I said, this is on my mind because I'm seeing it so often in my own life, as well as with my son and my clients. Recently, in my own life, I recommitted to deepening my own spiritual experiences, my own spiritual practices that I have. The one that I've been doing the longest is meditation. I've been practicing, for over probably 25 years now, 23 years. And so I've committed to deepening that practice, and also, because it's changed over those 25 years, things are different as my life changes. But I've also committed to not believing karmic conditioning. And that's in my spiritual practice, this is one of the things that my teacher talks about, is how we are conditioned by our parents, by our family, by our society, by, ancestral messages that are passed down, our karma, right, from past lives too, that influences what we think, what that critical voice in the head says. So I've been increasing my awareness practice so that I notice more and more subtle things, those messages that I receive and what I am thinking. So, as I said, I've been meditating a long time, and a few years ago, maybe, I started meditating in the morning and at night. So I meditate every day. I always meditate at least once a day. That's my bare minimum. And 90% of the time, I'm meditating in the morning before I do anything else. And I find that it's a really good start to the day for me. I tend to enjoy the day much more if I am meditating in the morning. This is just short practice, usually 10, 15 minutes, right? So a couple of days ago, over the weekend, things happened in the morning that prevented me from doing my regular routine. Somebody needed to be somewhere early. I overslept, stuff like that. So I just meditated later in the day, right? No big deal. Except what happened was the next time I actually could wake up and meditate early, I noticed that there was so much resistance to doing this thing that I've been doing for years. It was very loud, this I don't want to, that was in my head. That critical voice was being extremely loud about I don't want to. It's very strong. So notice that it wasn't just the resistance. Like it wasn't just that I woke up one day and had a bunch of resistance, this very loud voice in my head. It was also that suddenly a practice that had been very solid of waking up and meditating was derailed, right? Like there was this very subtle resistance in a different way that was happening as well. Then the more obvious resistance of that critical voice saying, I don't want to, both of those happened after I had committed to practicing more deeply in my life. So there were two types of resistance that showed up. This is such an important process to watch because for me, it happens again and again. And this is what I see with my clients too. Very often, we don't notice that subtle form of resistance because it sneaks up and we think that it really is this other stuff that's happening in the world, right? Like, oh, I overslept. I'm just tired. I just stayed up too late. And that's why I didn't meditate or cook the meal or exercise or whatever we've just committed to, right? Whatever this thing that you're like, okay, this is it. I'm going to do this. Just a few days or weeks ago, I commit to doing something and almost immediately I get sidetracked, right? Almost immediately. This is one of the things that my teacher used to say. She probably still does. She says, you commit to going to a meditation class, right? Like that's when the workshop starts. And then you watch how you don't go. And that is part of the practice. That is part of the practice of how do you get talked out of going? Oh, it just happened that there's something else going on at the same time. Oh, it just happened that, I overslept. Oh, but it's not that it just happened. This is resistance. So we also have, on top of that, we have kind of, what's going on with our resistance. We also have these conditioned messages in our society that if we don't want to do something, that we should just drop it, right? Like, well, I don't really want to, so it must not be the right thing, or, it's just not right for me at this time. This is a little trickier to explain because I do feel like there are times when it's like, this just isn't for me. It's not like you should just push through and do everything. And there are things that we make a commitment to from our heart. Like this spiritual practice is something, it's not a should for me. It's not a have to. It's not pushing through. It's something that my heart wants, right? Something that I want. I committed to it not from a place of should or supposed to. I wanted it. And then there was resistance. So here's the interesting thing, right? So there's the subtle resistance, which I didn't notice until there was this more, this easier to spot resistance of, I don't want to, I don't feel like it, right? So what I did in that moment is I listened to the voice saying, I don't want to, I don't feel like it. I noticed it was resistance and I didn't listen to it, right? Just because there was a voice that said, I don't want to, I don't feel like it, I didn't do that thing. Instead of thinking that I should listen to the resistance, I noticed it. I decided, yep, there it is. I know there is, I don't want to, I don't feel like it. I even called it resistance at that point. I was aware of it, and then I reminded myself of this commitment. If I want to have a deeper spiritual practice, then I continue to show up. I continue. It's not even like I was doing a new thing. I continue to show up for myself. I reminded myself of what my heart wanted, of what I wanted when I set that commitment, right? There was a reason I set this specific spiritual commitment. It was something that I feel like is what's been missing in my life. I feel like my guides have been kind of pushing me along, like it's time to do this spiritual practice in a different way, in a deeper way. So maybe for you, you've noticed something in your life that you really want, that you truly from your heart want. And yet, there's resistance that shows up. Perhaps you've committed to eating one vegetable a day, right? That you're like, I want to include more vegetables in my diet. I want to have one vegetable a day. And then you might kind of wake up one day looking down at your plate and notice that there's not any vegetables on it, almost like there's a backslide that happens. Or you could be eating out and notice that the voice in your head is telling you so sweetly, well, you should treat yourself tonight. Just one night without a vegetable won't make a difference. This is your favorite place, and what you really want are the starches and the carbs and the dessert, right? Sound familiar? I know it is for me. So this is the voice of resistance, right? And you might be thinking, but Rebecca, so what? Why does this matter? Well, it matters. It matters because it's your heart, right? If your heart wants something, if your heart over and over again says, you know what I'd really like? What I really want is to move my body. What I really want is to feel better. And you keep not doing that thing. It's like telling your best friend or your significant other that you're going to show up for dinner, and then you don't show up for dinner over and over again. It's kind of like that. It kind of just, even that, saying that makes my heart hurt a little bit, right? So it matters because it's your relationship with you. And the stronger, the more attentive you are to yourself, the more amazing your life is. And it matters because noticing and becoming aware of this resistance is like following the yellow brick road, right? This is gold to what you really want. It seems opposite, right? We think the resistance means we shouldn't go that way. I feel uncomfortable. I'm not supposed to. But it's the opposite. Following where there is resistance is going to lead you to what you really do want in your life. Now, sometimes, this is where it gets really subtle, sometimes there is resistance that's more like authentic resistance, right? Because you're doing something that you think you, and I'm going to put in quotes, should be doing, or that someone else has told you you should do. And sometimes that resistance is really pointing you back to what is going to really serve your life, right? So it's like a little red flag, a marker, a mile marker, where you can start to look and say, what's really going on here? So how is it possible, right? How can it be both this good thing that's going to lead you to all of the things that you ever really wanted and this thing that may be pointing you to shoulds? So here's my experience. Both can be true because when there are things that I really, really want and that they are in alignment for me, they are me following my heart, they are listening to what I really want, the resistance can come from a place of, wow, I could possibly have what I really want and joy and goodness in my life. And there can be resistance to actually having what you want. Sounds counterintuitive again, right? But it's true. And sometimes that's fear of success, fear that you may not be worthy of it, fear that you may not be deserving of it. And it could be, again, that critical voice in your head is conditioned, right? Conditioned from society, conditioned from family, conditioned from years and ancestors and generations, right? That maybe we're not supposed to have good things, right? That you work really hard and then you die, right? Can be the messaging that we get. And then there's the other side, right? The other way that resistance can come. And that seems a little more clear, right? I can have resistance because something is actually not in alignment for me, that I can have resistance to something that isn't for me, right? And we just push ahead, we push through because we think we're supposed to. So if I'm not listening to my heart, to myself, to my inner wisdom, or to my guides, and that I think, well, everyone is doing XYZ, right? Everyone is, I don't know, whatever the latest TikTok trend is, right? Or the latest thing on Facebook. Everyone's doing that. Now I have to do that too. Instead of checking in with what I really want, right? If everyone was, I don't know, what does everyone want to do? Everyone wants to do the grapefruit diet, whatever. And you're like, but that doesn't sound like it would be good for my body. That's it, right? That's the thing, is listening to your body, which is different from listening to the mind that's having a conversation about it. So this is where the magic of resistance is. When we're paying attention and we are aware of what is happening, you notice the resistance arise, right? You notice it like, God, I really don't want to do this. And you can use that as a placeholder, as a check-in stop, as a mile marker, right? Okay, I need to check in with myself and see if I'm getting that truth chord of, is this for me? Yes. Like, do I really want to have a deepening in my spiritual practice? Yeah. Like, that feels really good to me on a lot of different levels. And was there resistance showing up? Oh, yeah. Right? So in an alignment, and there was resistance. So I can get really curious about that, right? I can get curious to check in. Why is this resistance here? I wonder what's happening. Isn't that interesting that there's resistance? I wonder what that's about. So you can look, right? You can sit with and notice it. Yeah, I feel resistance in my body. Yep. Now, what's this? What's going on around it? This can provide so much good information, right? Staying with those sensations in the body. How does it feel? Noticing what comes up. Getting really curious, maybe still taking a step forward, right, to see what happens, and letting it lead you to what is in alignment for you, what is in alignment for what you want, what's in alignment with your heart, with your soul, with your purpose, right? And then you can just use that same process over and over again, because look, resistance is everywhere, right? What do I want? As resistance arises, I get really curious. I check in with my body. Take the next step, right? What do I need to do now? Is always comes back to pausing and listening to your own wisdom. And you just keep doing that process over and over again. Okay, friends, I hope this is a helpful way. And this is why resistance is so amazing. It feels horrible, right? And it is the path that leads you to gold. So I'd love to hear what you're resistant in your life. Let me know what you see. Okay, dear ones, take good care of yourself. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for joining me on this episode of Whole Body Upgrade. If you'd like to learn more about working with me, you can visit me on Facebook or Instagram, or on my website, CenteredYou, that's CenteredYou.com. See you on the next episode of Whole Body Upgrade.